Hi guys, hope you're well. So out and about on the election trail, was lucky enough to speak to that very intelligent guy, Peter Whittle, who was the founder of the New Culture Forum and also heavily involved in Brexit. And we talked about the BBC and how the BBC really needs to go.
We started the NCF in 2006, and originally, some of my colleagues who worked in the media worked in TV at that time in one of the main channels. We just noticed that things were becoming a little bit more constrained, a bit more restricted. We wanted to actually build something that was going to challenge what was increasingly a monolithic kind of set of views. I would say that they go across all of our institutions now. They don't just go across the art or media. They go across the civil service, the police definitely, the army, certainly education. And it's going to be one of the toughest things to break, actually, for that very reason. These people are not elected people. It's like often people say, why are you complaining so much? We've had a Conservative Party government for the last however many years. As I'm sure you understand, it's not just about who's elected in Parliament. It's the people that increasingly are not really anything to do with the electoral process, but basically who inhabit all these institutions,
Absolutely. I mean, the BBC, what's your view about the BBC? Should should they take the licence away?
I think that reforms policy is actually to scrap the licence fee, and I would go along with that, definitely. I think that the BBC can't be reformed. People sort of say, you can reform it, there are occasionally these kind of initiatives to basically make it more balanced. I think it's beyond that. I think it's absolutely beyond that. But I think that it will naturally go because of technological difference and what's happened in the past, 20 years. You cannot justify it anymore. But I mean, so basically that might well be what basically does for the BBC.
Yes.
But I would say that despite that, even if that weren't the case, I'm tired of basically people who have absolutely no commercial accountability because they're a public broadcaster allowed to propagate things that essentially I would be paying for, the views that I don't agree with, views that I think the majority of people don't agree with, not just in their news, that's the easy part. It's actually in comedy and in drama and in every other field. It's kind of relentless. What I would say is that it's not just the BBC, it is Channel 4, increasingly ITV, Sky, which is now unrecognisable to what it was. The reason that maybe you don't have to worry so much about those is that, look, you can pay for them if you want, The BBC, which tends to set the agenda, by basically fear of criminal action, you have to, pay the licence fee if you have a TV. So that's why it's particularly important in the case of the BBC.
So have you personally ever been censored or have pieces that you have done, have they been taken down?
No, we've been fortunate. There was a time with YouTube, I'd say about during the pandemic, when everyone was getting very jittery.
Yes.
And I suppose that actually on our YouTube channel, we did have, there was one piece, I think it was Peter Hitchens, it was an interview with Peter Hitchens, and that suddenly stopped getting views. It's the most interesting thing. They don't actually sort of take it down or ban it or whatever. But in fact, you suddenly find, wait a minute, how come something that's been going on at 10,000, 20,000, 30, suddenly go down to a trickle of 25? So that happened. But otherwise, no. We've been, touch wood, okay. But, I think that when it comes to the mainstream broadcasters, things have got to change. You know, things have got to change, and they will anyway because of technology. But frankly, the BBC has got to be, it's got to be challenged.
Yes.
Simple as that.
So, final question: are you optimistic or negative about the future with this
I'm
change
optimistic.
of government?
Honestly, I'm optimistic. I'm not just bullshitting here. I'm optimistic because, for example, during the 1970s, people said, you know, we were the sick man of Europe in Britain. Things were really bad. Okay, it was economics then, it wasn't cultural stuff. But there seemed to be no coming back. Now, whatever you think of Margaret Thatcher, things did change, and there was an extraordinary change in Britain's status within 10 years. So things can happen, things can change. And again, if you'd said to me, and I say as one who was very heavily involved in the Brexit campaign,
Yes.
if you said to me in, say, 2010 even, not that long ago, that we would leave the EU, basically people would have still thought you were pretty crazy. Regardless of what's been happening since, I would add. But the actual act of the vote, that shows you that things can happen and change. So I am optimistic, but there's no getting away from it. It's really tough at the moment.
So, for anybody that wants to join you, where should they look online?
Well, it would be lovely if people wanted to either become a member of the New Culture Forum, or indeed if they want to become one of our locals. We've got this branches, 30 branches now. We're talking in Wellingborough tonight, but I mean we've got them all over the place. Then, quite simple, get in touch, New Culture Forum, either at contact@newcultureforum.org.uk or locals@newcultureforum.org.uk.
Fantastic. Well, keep up the fantastic work.
And thanks for coming tonight, and all the very best to your thousands of subscribers.
Brilliant. Thank you.